Hi and welcome to another video from myself, Bourbon Hunter UK. What I thought I'd like to do in this video, and you probably guessed from the title because it's probably written, is compare Buffalo Trace, the US version, against our UK EU version that we get here. I'm going to throw another one into the mix as well, which I'll explain as I bring it up. Now first of all, let's bring up the bottle of Buffalo Trace. Now this is without any doubt my favourite sub £20 80 proof bourbon that you can get in the UK market. It's sweet, it's got oak, not heaps and bags of it. I mean, considering it's only 6 to 7 years old, they say, it's got enough oak in there that you can taste it. It's got the sweet caramels, butterscotches, a little bit of spices that goes over the mid palate, a really well balanced, if not slightly sweet bourbon, which my own palate, my own profile, so to speak, I absolutely adore. I think it's great. I mean, a touch more wood doesn't go no harm, but as long as it's well balanced, I like it. And this has that. It's an easy sipper, a dangerously easy sipper, and a great all-round bottle. So, we're pitting that against the American 90 proof. Now, this is a 1 litre bottle. Picked it up off eBay. Cost me £43 including postage. So I suppose if I take postage off, it was probably about 39 quid. You know, if you forget about postage. So just for the sake of argument, we're going to say £40, but it's a 1 litre bottle. I'm going to speak about the flavour profile that this has in just a minute, but before I'm going to introduce our little special guest. This again is Buffalo Trace, but this one is a single barrel select, and I believe this is a secret bottle shop, barrel number 343. This cost me about £30. I had to pay again for postage on top of that, but £30 it was. This is another 40 proof, 40% by volume, 80 proof bottle. A nice bottle, and I'm going to speak about this in relation to its brother or sister bottle, they're both 80 proof. This one being a single barrel, this one being the blended run-of-the-mill one that you get. Like I said, love this one. Now the flavour profile on this was a touch more oakier, and that hid the sweetness. It is there, but the balance was more towards that oakiness, which made it off profile, but not too far off profile. Definitely worth having, and I enjoy it. I've got half a bottle. Would I buy another bottle of this? No, but that's because there's other single barrels out there that I'd like to get my hands on and try them. And hopefully, and I know that from time to time you can get 90 proof single barrels, so that'd be a nice thing to try as well. But I know that there's quite a few 80 proof single barrels out there from different shops, different stores. That'd be worth trying as well. So, but overall, very happy. Now you can see here that's £20, £30, and nearly £40. But again, this is a 1 litre bottle at 90 proof. Now I didn't think that was a bad price. Since I've purchased it, it has now gone up to about £48, £49, which I think pushes it too far away from me in my budget. Because there's other options out there you can get. I mean, why would you pay that much when for a 90 proof bourbon you could quite easily spend £30 on an Eagle Rare 10-year-old, which is another one of my favourites. A bit of a Buffalo Trace fanatic here, a tater as the Americans call them, but well worth having, something I've always wanted to try. Now, what would I say the flavour profile on this is? Well, it's like this, but the volume switch on this one has been turned all the way up to 11. it's opened the door for everything, for the sweetness, the oakiness, the spice. It's all been amped up, and if I'm being totally honest, I find the oakiness to be a lot more prevalent in this, in the balance, than I get with this. There is an oakiness to it, but it's quite mild in this. I mean, this bottle, to be fair, I mean, I've had close on to 20 odd bottles in the last few years of this, and this bottle actually stands out as being, they call them a golden barrel, a honey barrel, sorry, not golden barrel, a honey barrel. This is a lovely batch. This one had everything that I like about Buffalo Trace all in one bottle. It really did. I wish, and which is why I'm eking it out a bit, I wish I'd got another couple at the same time that I purchased this, but hey, you pay your money, take your chances. When I first poured them, I had a good pour of these two last night. Not this one, but just these two. What I noticed was when you pour it at first, you get that sweetness. When you pour this one up first, you get that sweetness, but it's much easier to ascertain that it's the caramels and the butterscotch. The wood note is there in the background. It's the same as what you get on here. The sweetness on this is a bit more vague. Yeah, vague is probably about the best word. Now, I was drinking them. Like I said, the oak comes across quite strong on this and overpowers the sweetness to a certain degree. Still, a lovely, lovely pour. And I think it's one of those things that, you know, when you step up from 80 proof to a 90 proof, even with the same initial liquid, that expression is going to be expressed even further. And the wood note seems to come out. The wood isn't harsh, it's not tannic or anything like that. It's just a bit stronger in the balance itself, which is one of the reasons why I like this one. And I've got so used to drinking this that maybe have more to do with it than, you know, because this is just my first bottle and you can see a few pours out of it, but you know, no more than that. So it might just take a bit of getting used to it, but I did and I do enjoy it. I sat, after I tested the pair of them, I ended up giving myself a generous pour of this and sitting there watching telly and drinking this and enjoyed every sip. I really did. It's lovely. Would I buy it again for that money? Well, for the money that I've paid for it? To be honest with you, with the fact it was a 1 litre bottle, which is always good anyway, and the fact it was 90 proof, yeah, I think I would. But unfortunately, it's gone up to, you know, what, nearly £10 more. You know, I think that does put it above and beyond, not necessarily my budget, but actually there's other choices out there for that money that I could have. I mean, if you think about it, like I say, Eagle Rare, you know, is only a £30. I mean, Michter's, their bourbon, when it goes on special offer, it's only just over £50. Again, that's a 90, I think it's 91 proof, 91.4 or something like that. I've been meaning to try that, so I probably would, you know, given the choice of when I've got this, I'll go for something I haven't got, and comes highly recommended. But what I did notice, this is, when I was drinking this one and thinking about this, the 80 proof version, I came to the realisation that it's clever of Buffalo Trace marketing an 80 proof in the UK and in the EU. It's a different market to what they have back home, and we have a lot of more Scotch in this country, and 80 proof is the introductory, is the introductory point for a lot of Scotch. And there's a lot of Scotch that's 80 proof that is sold, you know, and Irish that's sold at 80 proof. So it was a good idea on them, and also they're competing with their own national competitors, which is Jim Beam and Jack Daniels, on the same stage. So having something at 80 proof was a good call. For years I thought to myself, they've just watered it down for us, just to eke it out, get more bottles out of a barrel, etc., etc. But I'll be honest with you, if I was to take this 90 proof and proof it down with water, obviously, to 80 proof, one of the things I have noticed is when you add water to any bourbon, is the wood notes, and I think that's because they're water soluble, the wood notes stand out even more. So that would mean at 80 proof, that wood note would be more prevalent than it actually is in an 80 proof Buffalo Trace. So I actually think that when they bottle this, or when they're batching this for bottling, is they select certain barrels to make sure that when it's proofed down to 80 proof, that you get the profile that they want, which before I hadn't even thought about. But like I said, if I was to get this and proof it down to 80, it would be even more, I think, even more woody or oaky than it is already. So in some ways you look at this, the 80 proof UK version, and you think, oh, this is just that watered down US version. But I don't. I think it's purposely blended for the UK and EU market. And I think that gives us a bit more variation than they even have in the US. This is sweet, easy drinking, which is, I think, what they were aiming for, to compete against the likes of Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, and Scotch drinkers and Irish drinkers as well. That I don't think, and I've not had one that's anywhere near as oaky as this. I mean, apart from this single barrel, which stood out by being oaky when you compare it to a standard Buffalo Trace. And like I said, I've had a few bottles of this over the years. I really have. It's not that I've tried one or two bottles and the bottles that I had were sweet. I'm not exaggerating if I say that I'm close on to 20 odd bottles in the last few years. This is a daily sipper for me. I know the profile of the UK version of this very well. I should point out, I only ever drink it neat. I don't ever drink it with a mix-up. Shameful to do such a thing as far as I'm concerned. So again, those close on to 20 bottles that I've had, have all been drunk neat. And there is batch variation, there's batch drift as they call it. But basically the profile remains the same, and it is just a slight drift, either with sweetness or with the oak, but not as much as I got with this single barrel. So I do think that, now I've just thought of something, literally live as I'm doing this. When they chose this barrel, maybe what they chose was a barrel that was selected for a 90 proof release in the US. Then they've had it watered down, which would explain why it's oakier than the standard 80 proof, which just reinforces what I've just said about the fact that I do think they specifically hand select the barrels that they need for the batch for an 80 proof release of Buffalo Trace. It's not a completely different beast to the 90 proof, but it is different. Before I was looking at it and thinking it was just a proof down version of the 90. I don't think it is. I think this is an entity on its own and stands on its own merit. I was drinking the pair of these last night, and I must admit, this, every time I took a mouthful or a sip of this, it was familiar, and it was what I was used to drinking, and this was alien. Not too far alien, but alien enough, and almost were like two different two different drinks, two different bourbons, but they shared so much of DNA. And like I said, what you get in this is just amped up to 11 in that. It's just that what you don't realise is that amping up includes the oak as well, which throws, like I said, throws the balance off a bit, but not enough to make you not drink it. And I would recommend anybody like me, like myself, who happens to like the 80 proof UK version and has been umming and ahhing about thinking about trying the 90 proof, go for it. Would I suggest going for these? Do you know what? No. I mean, yeah, I mean, if it's the only thing you can get hold of and you fancy something different, but over the two, I would push anybody to try this, because it brings this, the 80 proof version, into a different light. They are different. Sister bottles. And I do believe that this one is hand chosen barrels for the batch, and this one is the same thing. They do not share. They're not both selected from the same barrels, and it doesn't matter. They just proof one down to 80 and proof one down to 90. I don't believe that happens. I believe that they specially select the barrels for the 90, and I think they specially select the barrels for the 80. Now, if you think I'm completely bonkers, which a lot of people do, tell me in the comments. And you know the spiel, like, comment and subscribe. Please, it all helps. I mean, I'm only a little channel trying to move forward. And to be truthful here, I'm only going to specialise in the UK version of things. So the last few videos I've done have been specifically about things that we get in the UK that you don't get in the US. Just trying to fill in the gaps in the UK market. In fact, we've got is it Never Say Die, an English bourbon distillery. No, I wouldn't say they were a distillery. They buy their bourbon, I believe it's a 3-year-old bourbon from Kentucky. They bring it over to England, age it here for another year and release it. You don't get many reviews of that over in the States, so maybe that's one of the things I'll try and pick up so that we can have a review of my opinions and my thoughts on that. But another video I am going to be doing, just to let you in on it before I go, is the fact that here in the UK we get certain things that are a lot more expensive than you get in the States, but we do get a few things that are actually cheaper than in the States. I mean, Buffalo Trace, everybody goes, oh well, it's so expensive and hard to get in the US. And we get our 80 version quite easily and cheaply over here. You know, it's not hard to find, let's be truthful. Same as Eagle Rare. We get it for a good price, £30 when it goes on special offer, and it's easy enough to find. But one of the things that Buffalo Trace released as well, that prices itself at about $100 and $110 in America, is the kosher series from Buffalo Trace, which is at 94 proof. They have a wheat version, they have a rye recipe, and they do have a rye. Now, I'm going to do, my next video is going to be a review of the wheat recipe and the rye recipe, koshers. And that's because in this country, we can pick up the rye recipe for about £35, which is a lot cheaper than America can. And I believe that from time to time, and I paid about £40 for the wheat recipe one, which I think they are both astoundingly great value. I mean, not to let you in on the end of the video, but I mean, you can see from the price there, you know, the difference that we pay in this country as compared to America. Now, of course, when Americans review it, you alright, dog? Okay. Oh, bless you. Inward sneezing again. Sorry, there's trouble with having dogs. In America, when they review it at that price point, you know, $100, $110. So they're judging it and reviewing it on that price. In this country, we get it for a lot cheaper. So, you know, our review of it and our opinion of it, you know, it's going to be linked to the price of it. You know, if it was £150, you know, that'd be too expensive. You know, but if it's an okay juice for £35, £40, you know, hey, that's worth having. But if it's an okay juice for £150, it's just like no. You know, so price is important, and it's an important factor when considering the purchase of any bourbon. You know, otherwise we'd all have Blantons and E.H. Taylors and Stag Juniors, and the GTS, you know, etc., etc. Well, right, for all those people that are still here, thanks very much for watching. Be lucky, and until next time, take care.